The blue lights of the observation ship blinked in the darkness of the far side of Earth's moon. Inside, 6 aliens with gray skin and large, dark eyes moved between control panels. They were members of the Galactic Research Council, the most respected scientific organization in the known universe. Chief Scientist Zixval stood at the main viewing screen. His 4-fingered hand adjusted the controls to zoom in on a small town in the middle of what humans called America. Zixval had studied 15 different species across the galaxy, but none confused him as much as humans. "Are the monitoring devices working properly?" Zixval asked. His assistant Mepler nodded. "Yes, Chief. We can observe the humans without them knowing." "Good. The Council wants answers. They need to know if humans are safe to contact or if they should be avoided." The aliens had discovered Earth 6 months ago. They had stayed hidden, watching humans from a distance. Most species in the galaxy followed clear patterns. They either worked together all the time or competed all the time. Humans did both, and it made no sense. "I have found our first subject," said Krilltex, the team's behavior expert. She pointed to a screen showing a human male in a red truck. "This one is called Sam Miller. He works as something called a firefighter." The aliens watched as Sam drove his personal vehicle toward a tall building with smoke coming from the windows. Other humans in special suits were already there, pointing water at the flames. "This behavior is interesting," said Zixval. "They run toward danger instead of away from it." "And look," said Mepler, pointing at another screen. "The human Sam is entering the burning structure." The aliens watched with wide eyes as Sam put on a mask and ran into the burning building. Minutes later, he came out carrying a small human child. He handed the child to another human, then went back inside. "This makes no sense," said Krilltex. "He is risking his life for unrelated members of his species. There is no genetic benefit to this action." "Perhaps they have a hive mind we cannot detect," suggested another scientist. Zixval shook his head. "No, our scans show they have individual consciousness. They choose to do this." The aliens continued watching as Sam went into the burning building 2 more times, helping more humans escape. After the fire was put out, Sam removed his helmet and sat on the back of the red truck. He looked tired but satisfied. "Record this in the observation log," said Zixval. "Humans will risk death to save strangers." Reason unknown, the aliens turned their attention to another screen showing a tall glass building in a place humans called New York City. Inside the building, a human female named Jane Wright sat at a desk covered with papers and electronic devices. It was late at night and she was alone in the office. "This human has been working for 15 hours today," said Mepler. "Our research shows this is harmful to human health. Yet she continues," noted Zixval. "Why?" Jane rubbed her eyes and drank from a cup containing a brown liquid the aliens had identified as coffee. She continued typing on her computer, occasionally looking at a device that showed the time. "According to our data," said Krilltex, "she is competing with other humans in her workplace for something called a promotion. It will give her more status and resources." "So humans compete with their own group members?" asked Zixval. "This contradicts what we just saw with the firefighter." The aliens watched Jane work for 2 more hours before she finally left the building. She walked to her home, a small living space that cost most of her resources. She slept for only 5 hours before returning to work. "The behaviors are inconsistent," said Zixval. "The same species cannot be both self-sacrificing and self-serving." The observation team moved their focus to a different area. They found a human male named Pete Wilson sitting alone in a small room playing a game on a screen. He was controlling a character that was fighting monsters. "This human is simulating danger," said Mepler. "But why? He is safe in his dwelling." "Humans seek out feelings of fear and excitement," said Krilltex. "They call it entertainment." "A species that seeks out fear for pleasure." Zixval shook his head. "That contradicts basic survival instincts." The team continued their observations through the next Earth Day. They watched a human female named Maria Garcia spend hours caring for small plants in dirt outside her dwelling. They saw a human male named Greg Baker, give food to a homeless human without asking for anything in return. They observed two humans arguing over which direction to hang a paper roll in a bathroom. Their behavior has no consistent pattern, said Zixval. They can be kind or cruel, selfish or generous, logical or completely irrational. As Earth's sun began to set, the aliens gathered to discuss their findings. Perhaps they are all mentally unstable, suggested one scientist. No, said Krilltex. Their civilization has existed for thousands of years, and they have advanced technology. They must have some logic to their behavior that we cannot see. Zixval tapped his long fingers on the control panel. We need more data. Tomorrow we will observe their social structures more closely. We need to understand their leadership systems and how they make group decisions. The chief scientist turned to a communication device and began recording his daily report to the Galactic Council. Day 45 of human observation. We have confirmed that humans show behaviors that contradict each other and basic survival logic. They will risk their lives for strangers, but also compete fiercely with group members. They seem to enjoy experiencing fear and discomfort in controlled situations. They spend resources and time on activities with no survival benefit. Zixval paused, looking at the blue-green planet visible through the ship's window. The humans appear to operate on principles that contradict basic survival logic. Further study required. I cannot yet determine if humans would be beneficial allies or dangerous enemies. They are unpredictable in ways no other species has been. He ended the recording and turned back to his team. Rest now. Tomorrow we continue our research. We must understand these humans. The Council will want answers, and right now we have none. As the alien scientists prepared for their rest cycle, Earth continued spinning below them, filled with billions of humans doing things that made perfect sense to themselves and no sense at all to their secret observers. The morning sun peeked over the horizon as the alien research team returned to their observation stations. After a full cycle of rest, Zixval felt ready to solve the puzzle of human behavior. Today they would focus on a small town called Riverdale to get a closer look at how humans interacted in a community. I have identified several subjects for today's observation, said Krilltex, bringing up images on the main screen. This will give us a broader understanding of human social structures. The first screen showed a human male with rough hands and oil-stained clothes. He worked in a small building filled with tools and broken vehicles. This is Gary Thompson, explained Krilltex. He repairs transportation devices called cars for other humans. The aliens watched as an elderly human female drove a small blue car into Gary's shop. The vehicle made strange noises and released smoke from underneath. Gary greeted the woman with a hand gesture the aliens had learned was called a wave. Hello, Mrs. Davis, said Gary. Having trouble with the car again? The older human nodded. It's making that noise again, Gary. I don't have much money this month with my medication costs. Gary looked at the car and then back at the woman. Don't worry about the money, Mrs. Davis. I'll fix it up and we can settle up when your social security check comes in. Zixval tilted his head in confusion. He is offering services without immediate payment? Is this a family member? No, replied Mepler, checking their database. Our records show no genetic connection. They simply live in the same community. The aliens continued watching as Gary spent 3 hours fixing the car. When he finished, he wiped his hands on a cloth and told Mrs. Davis it was ready. How much do I owe you, Gary? She asked. Parts were $15, Gary said. Don't worry about the labor, just bring me some of your apple pie next time you bake. The elderly human smiled and thanked him repeatedly before driving away. Record. This interaction, said Zixval. The human provides a valuable service in exchange for baked food. This is inefficient economic behavior. Before anyone could respond, the observation screen shifted to show another vehicle pulling into Gary's shop. This one was larger and had markings from another town. A human male in expensive clothes stepped out and explained that his car was making strange noises. Gary examined it, replaced a small part, and then handed the visitor a paper. That'll be $95, said Gary. The visitor paid and left. The difference in treatment confused the aliens even more. He charged the second human a substantial fee but helped the first one for almost nothing, said Mepler. This makes no logical sense. It appears humans assign different values to relationships versus transactions with strangers, suggested Krilltex. Let's observe another subject. The screens changed to show a human female in a room with many small humans. According to the data, she was called Olivia Martinez, and she was a teacher. The aliens watched as Olivia taught the young humans about mathematics and language. When the small humans left for the day, Olivia stayed behind. She took money from her own wallet and went to a store where she bought supplies for her classroom. Our data indicates that she is not well compensated for her work, said Mepler. Yet she uses her own resources to purchase items for these unrelated offspring. The humans continue to defy logical behavior patterns, noted Zixvol. The research team shifted their focus again, this time to a coastal area where humans were entering a large body of water with boards attached to their feet. One human male, identified as Frank Bennett, paddled out far from shore where large waves formed. The aliens watched in astonishment as Frank deliberately positioned himself in the path of an enormous wave. Instead of trying to escape the dangerous water formation, he stood on his board and rode the wave toward shore. This human is risking death, said Zixvol. For what purpose? According to our research, this activity is called surfing and is done for fun, replied Krilltex, sounding confused even as she explained it. Fun? They risk their lives for fun? Zixvol could not comprehend this concept. The observations continued as they watched Frank get knocked down by a massive wave. The water held him under for nearly a minute before he surfaced, coughing and gasping for air. Any rational species would retreat to safety after such an experience. Instead, Frank smiled, grabbed his board, and paddled back out for more. I cannot process this behavior, said one of the junior scientists. It contradicts all survival instincts. The next subject was a human female named Diane Collins. She spent hours in the dirt outside her dwelling, carefully placing small plants in precise patterns. She removed other plants that appeared to be growing naturally. What purpose does this serve? Asked Mepler. She removes perfectly healthy vegetation to replace it with other vegetation. Humans call this gardening, said Krilltex. They arrange plants based on visual appeal rather than nutritional value or practical function. The aliens watched as Diane continued working despite the hot sun and insects biting her skin. She appeared to be in physical discomfort but continued the activity anyway. This species deliberately seeks out discomfort, noted Zixvol. They run into burning buildings, they ride dangerous waves, they dig in dirt under a hot sun. They seem to value effort and struggle for its own sake. At that moment, Unkrtep, the team's behavioral analyst, made a strange sound and began to shake. The other aliens rushed to help their colleague. Unkrtep is having a psychic disturbance, said Mepler, with concern. Trying to reconcile human behavior with evolutionary logic is causing neural pathway conflicts. They helped Unkrtep to a resting chamber, while Zixvol continued the observations with the remaining team members. We must be careful, warned Zixvol. Human behavior patterns are so contradictory they can cause mental harm to those who study them too intensely. As the Earth's day came to an end, the research team gathered to share their findings. Humans help others without benefit to themselves. They engage in dangerous activities for enjoyment. They create beauty with no practical purpose, summarized Zixvol. No other species in our database behaves this way. Zixvol turned to the recording device to make his daily report to the Galactic Council. Day 46 of human observation. The contradictions in human behavior have intensified upon closer study. They appear to be the only species in the galaxy that deliberately seeks out discomfort for enjoyment. They assign value based on social connections rather than logical exchange. One of our team members has suffered minor neural damage from attempting to reconcile human behavior with known evolutionary patterns. He paused, looking at the data screens showing the humans going about their evening activities. We will continue our research tomorrow, focusing on human emotional responses. Perhaps there lies the key to understanding why they are like this. The alien research team gathered on the observation deck for their third day of intensive human study. Enkurtep had recovered enough to rejoin them, though the behavioral analyst still seemed shaken by yesterday's events. Today we will focus on human emotions, announced Zixval. Our previous observations suggest that humans often act based on feelings rather than logic. We need to understand these emotions to make sense of their behavior. Kriltex nodded in agreement. I have selected a location called County General Hospital for today's observations. Humans experience strong emotions in medical facilities. The main screen activated, showing a large white building with many windows. Humans moved in and out through sliding glass doors. Some walked normally, others were pushed in wheeled chairs, and some lay on moving beds. This location will provide a full spectrum of human emotional responses, said Mepler, from grief to joy, often in close proximity. The first subject they observed was a human male called Dr. Alan Parker. According to their data, he had been working in the hospital for over 36 hours without rest. This human is experiencing extreme fatigue, noted Zixval. Yet he continues to treat patients with careful attention. They watched as Alan examined an injured child, speaking softly and gently, touching the small human's arm in a comforting gesture. Though his eyes were red and his movements slow from exhaustion, he maintained a calm, reassuring manner. Why does he not rest? Asked a junior scientist. His cognitive functions must be impaired from lack of sleep. According to the hospital records, there was an accident involving many humans and they needed extra medical help, explained Kriltex. He could have gone home when his scheduled work period ended, but he chose to stay. There is no indication that he receives extra payment for this additional work, added Mepler. He appears to be motivated by something else. The aliens watched as Alan finally took a brief rest, sitting in a small room and closing his eyes. But before he could sleep, his communication device made a noise. Without hesitation, he stood and hurried to help another patient. Record this behavior, instructed Zixval. The human puts the needs of unrelated beings above his own physical requirements. This contradicts basic survival instincts. The observation team shifted their focus to another area of the hospital, where many humans sat in a large waiting room. Their facial expressions and body positions indicated various emotional states. Observe the female human in the corner, said Kriltex. Our scans indicate she is experiencing intense grief. The woman sat alone, her face wet with tears. Occasionally her body shook with sobs. The aliens had never seen such a physical display of emotion in any other species. As they watched, another human approached the crying woman. This human wore a uniform with a name tag that read, Heather Wilson RN. Heather sat next to the grieving woman and placed a hand on her shoulder. She spoke softly and offered a small white cloth for the tears. The human called Heather is providing comfort, observed Mepler. But why? She does not know this other human. Interesting, said Zixval. Let me check Heather's personal records. The alien scientist reviewed the data they had collected on this human. What he found was surprising. According to our surveillance, this human Heather experienced a personal tragedy 3 days ago. Her mother died after an illness. Yet here she is, providing emotional support to strangers instead of focusing on her own grief. The aliens watched as Heather continued her work throughout the day. She moved from patient to patient, always with a gentle smile and kind words. When she entered rooms with sick humans, her demeanor was cheerful and optimistic. When she entered her small office, alone however, her face changed to show sadness. She maintains a different emotional display depending on who can see her, noted Nkortep. This requires significant mental control. I believe this is what humans call compartmentalization, said Kriltex. They can separate their personal feelings from their professional duties. No other species we have studied can do this to such a degree, added Zixval. Most species either feel emotions and act on them immediately, or they do not feel emotions at all. The research team continued their observations, moving to another section of the hospital. Here several humans gathered around a female who held a tiny new human infant. This is a birth celebration, explained Kriltex. The small human emerged from the female approximately 6 hours ago. The aliens watched as the humans in the room displayed various emotional responses. Some cried, some laughed, some did both simultaneously. They took turns holding the infant, each making similar cooing sounds. Their emotional responses appear excessive for a simple reproductive event, said Meplor. Every species reproduces. Why do humans attach such significance to it? Perhaps because human offspring are so helpless for so long, suggested Nortep. They require years of care before they can survive independently. As they continued observing, the emotional displays became even more confusing. In one room, humans celebrated a successful surgery with laughter and embraces. In another room, humans consoled each other over a failed treatment, holding each other and sharing their grief. The emotions seemed contagious among them, noted Zixval with concern. When one human displays an emotion, others often begin to display the same emotion. Chief Scientist, interrupted Meplor suddenly, I am detecting something strange in our own team's neurological readings. Zixval examined the data and was alarmed by what he saw. 3 members of the research team showed unusual brain activity patterns while observing the humans. This is concerning, said Zixval. It appears that our team members are developing rudimentary forms of empathy just from observing humans. Their emotional states are affecting us. The affected researchers looked uncomfortable with this revelation. I felt something when the human female was crying, admitted one scientist. A strange sensation in my chest cavity. And I experienced an unexplained increase in mood when observing the birth celebration, added another. Zixval immediately ordered the affected team members to undergo decontamination procedures. When they had left, he turned to Krilltex with concern. Human emotions appear to be transmissible even across species barriers. This was not mentioned in any previous xenobiological research. As the Earth Day ended, Zixval prepared his report to the Galactic Council. The implications of their findings were more serious than he had anticipated. Day 47 of Human Observation. We have focused on human emotional responses today. The results are both fascinating and disturbing. Humans display extreme emotional states, yet can function despite them. They can compartmentalize emotions, feeling one thing while displaying another. Most concerning, their emotional states appear contagious, affecting even our own research team. Zixval paused before adding his recommendation. I recommend psychological shielding for all future contact with humans. Their emotional nature may pose an unexpected form of influence on other species. We still do not understand why they are like this, but their impact extends beyond their own kind. A loud alarm woke Zixval from his rest cycle. He rushed to the control room where Meplor and Krilltex were already studying the monitors with worried expressions. What has happened? Demanded Zixval. A critical system failure, replied Meplor. Our cloaking technology is malfunctioning. We have been visible to human detection systems for approximately 7 minutes. Zixval felt a sensation he had never experienced before, something like the human emotion of fear. Have they spotted us? Krilltex nodded grimly. Yes. We have detected communications from a rural area called Oklahoma. Several humans observed our craft when the cloaking failed. The standard protocol was clear. When non-contact species discovered their presence, the Galactic Research Council required elimination of all witnesses to prevent cultural contamination. It was a harsh but necessary policy that had been followed for thousands of years. Zixval looked at the monitor showing the humans who had seen their ship. There were 5 of them, standing in a field looking up at the night sky. They pointed and took pictures with their primitive devices. Prepare the memory erasure equipment, said Zixval reluctantly. We will need to land and... He stopped mid-sentence. After 3 days of studying humans, something felt wrong about following this protocol. These humans had done nothing wrong. They were simply curious, like his own people. Chief Scientist, prompted Meplor. Shall I prepare the landing craft? Zixval made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. No, we will not follow standard protocol. Instead, we will initiate limited contact. The other scientists stared at him in shock. That violates council directives, said Krilltex. We could be removed from our positions for this. I understand, replied Zixvol. But our research suggests humans may be unique among species we have encountered. This presents an opportunity to learn more through direct interaction, rather than just observation. After much discussion, the team agreed. They would land near the humans who had spotted them and make peaceful contact. They selected the human they believed would be least likely to react with violence, a retired science teacher named Bill Johnson. The small landing craft descended slowly to Earth in the early morning hours. Zixvol, Mepler, and Krilltex emerged wearing protective suits that covered their alien features. They approached the modest dwelling where Bill Johnson lived alone. Zixvol pressed the button beside the door, causing a chiming sound inside the house. Moments later, the door opened, revealing an elderly human male with white hair and glasses. Bill Johnson stared at the three strange figures on his porch. His eyes widened in surprise, but interestingly, not in fear. Well, said Bill after a moment of silence. I suppose you folks aren't from around here, are you? The aliens exchanged glances, surprised by his calm reaction. We are not, confirmed Zixvol, using the human language they had studied. We come from another planet. You saw our ship last night when our cloaking device failed. Bill nodded. I sure did. Been waiting my whole life for something like this. He stepped back from the door. Would you like to come in? I just made some coffee and pie. The aliens hesitated, then entered the human dwelling. Their research had not prepared them for such a welcoming response. According to their studies of other species, the normal reaction to alien contact was either aggression or panic. Inside, Bill's home was filled with books and strange objects. He guided them to a table and offered them food. It's apple pie, he explained. Don't know if you can eat our food, but you're welcome to try. We cannot remove our protective gear, said Mepler. But we appreciate the offer. Bill seemed completely at ease as he sat across from them. So, what brings you to Earth? Invasion? Exploration? Resource collection? Research, answered Zixvol. We study different species across the galaxy. Humans have proven particularly difficult to understand. Bill laughed, a sound the aliens had observed but never heard directed at them. I'm not surprised. We humans hardly understand ourselves most of the time. As they talked, Bill asked thoughtful questions about their propulsion systems and the number of civilizations they had encountered. His questions showed scientific understanding well beyond what the aliens had expected. You are not afraid of us? Asked Krilltex. Bill shrugged. Life's too short for fear when there's something amazing happening. I taught science for 40 years. Always told my students to stay curious. Would be pretty hypocritical if I ran screaming from the greatest scientific discovery of all time. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of vehicles approaching. Bill looked out the window. Looks like word got out. That's Sheriff Linda Brown and some other folks from town. The aliens tensed, preparing for the hostile response they had anticipated earlier. Should we return to our ship? Asked Mepler nervously. No need to rush off, said Bill calmly. Linda's good people. Let me talk to her first. Bill went outside while the aliens watched through the window. Several human vehicles had arrived, and humans with various expressions of shock and curiosity stood in the yard. Bill spoke with a human female wearing a uniform and badge. After a few minutes, Bill waved for the aliens to come out. Cautiously, they stepped onto the porch. Sheriff Linda Brown looked at them with wide eyes but kept her composure. Bill tells me you folks are peaceful researchers from another world. Is that correct? It is, confirmed Zixvol. Linda nodded slowly. Well then, welcome to Oak Ridge County. I'm going to ask everyone to keep a respectful distance and give our visitors some space. To the aliens' amazement, Linda began organizing the other humans, creating a perimeter around Bill's house. Rather than preparing weapons or showing hostility, she seemed primarily concerned with protecting the aliens from the gathering crowd. We need to keep the media away until we figure this out, Linda told Bill. Last thing we need is a circus. Are they comfortable? Do they need anything? Bill turned to the aliens. Sheriff wants to know if you need anything? Zixval was stunned. The humans' primary concern was their comfort and safety? This contradicted every first contact protocol the Galactic Council had established. Over the next few hours, more humans arrived, but Linda kept them at a distance. Local officials came to meet the aliens, asking polite questions and offering assistance. One human brought food. Another offered to share information about Earth's plants and animals. As the day progressed, Zixval realized this crisis had turned into the most valuable research opportunity possible. The humans had completely bypassed fear and moved directly to curiosity and hospitality. That evening, as Zixval prepared his report to the council, he struggled to explain what had happened. Day 48 of human observation. Our cloaking technology failed, resulting in unplanned first contact with humans in a rural area. Contrary to all predictions and previous experience with other species, the humans have responded with curiosity rather than fear, with hospitality rather than hostility. He paused, considering his next words carefully. I must completely reconsider our understanding of human psychology. Their response to us suggests a capacity for acceptance of difference that may be unique in the galaxy. Further study is essential to understand why they are like this. 3 months after the unexpected first contact in Oklahoma, Zixval stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 200 different species, all waiting to hear the results of the human observation mission. Chief Scientist Zixval, began the council leader, a tall being with silvery skin. Your team has spent more time studying humans than any other species. We have reviewed your reports, and frankly, many council members find your conclusions difficult to accept. Zixval nodded. He had expected this reaction. I understand, council leader. Humans defy many of our assumptions about how intelligent life should behave. You recommend offering humans membership in the galactic community, continued the leader. Yet your own reports describe them as unpredictable, emotional, and often irrational. Many council members fear this makes them dangerous. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Zixval waited for silence before responding. Respected council members, I once shared your concerns. When we first began observing humans, their behavior seemed chaotic and contradictory. They are emotional yet logical, selfish yet selfless, peaceful yet violent. But after extended study, I believe these apparent contradictions are actually their greatest strength. Zixval activated a holographic display showing images of humans from across Earth. Every other species we have encountered evolved along a predictable path. The logical species like the Vulrans developed technology through careful, rational progress. The hive-minded species like the Zictal advanced through perfect cooperation. But humans took a different evolutionary path. He showed images of human history, from early cave paintings to modern cities. Humans developed extreme adaptability through their contradictory nature. They can form social bonds with any sentient being. They will suffer for abstract concepts like justice or freedom. They explore without clear material benefit because they value knowledge itself. A council member from a warlike species stood. But these same traits make them unpredictable. How can we trust beings who act on emotions rather than logic? An excellent question, replied Zixval. Let me share what happened after our accidental contact. The holographic display showed images of the days following the revelation in Oklahoma. Despite the initial shock, humans around the world had responded with remarkable calm. Scientists, diplomats, and ordinary citizens had welcomed the alien visitors with curiosity and respect. What truly surprised us was their reaction to learning about the galactic community. Instead of fear or envy of more advanced civilizations, most humans expressed excitement about the opportunity to learn and contribute. Zixval switched the display to show 3 specific humans. These individuals represent why I believe humans would be valuable members of our community. First, Carol Peterson. After we revealed that multiple sentient species exist, she established the first human-alien cultural exchange program. She now cares for orphaned offspring from 5 different species. The image changed to show a human male working with complex equipment. Victor Ramirez dedicated his personal fortune to adapting our faster-than-light technology for human use. When asked why, he simply said, "Because it's there." This phrase, "because it's there," appears throughout human history as a motivation for exploration and discovery. The final image showed a young human female. Kim Taylor created a system for translating between 20 different galactic languages in just 2 months. She works tirelessly to help different species understand each other better. Zixval turned off the display and faced the council directly. Yes, humans are unpredictable, but their unpredictability leads to innovation. Yes, they are emotional, but their emotions drive them to connect with others even across species boundaries. Yes, they sometimes act irrationally, but they also act with compassion, curiosity, and courage in situations where pure logic might lead to less optimal outcomes. The council chamber was silent as the members considered his words. Finally, a representative from an ancient, highly advanced species stood. "I have lived for 900 years, said the elderly being. "In that time I have seen many species join our community. Most follow patterns we understand easily, but perhaps that is our limitation, not theirs." The Ancient One turned to address the full council. "Perhaps we need a species that thinks differently, that feels differently, that acts differently. In a universe where most species follow similar evolutionary paths, the humans may offer perspectives we have never considered." Debate continued for many hours. Some council members remained fearful of human unpredictability. Others were intrigued by their potential contributions. Eventually, the council leader called for a vote. Zixval waited anxiously as the votes were tallied. When the final count was displayed, he felt a surge of emotion that reminded him of human joy. By a narrow margin, the council had voted to offer Earth membership in the galactic community. As the chamber emptied, Meplor and Krilltex approached Zixval. The humans would say, "Congratulations," said Meplor with a slight smile. Like many of the research team members, she had begun adopting small human expressions and gestures. "The real work begins now," replied Zixval. "Helping humans integrate into the community while preserving their unique qualities will be challenging." "Speaking of their unique qualities," said Krilltex, "the Council Medical Committee wants all staff who worked closely with humans to undergo psychological evaluation. They're concerned about the emotional transference we reported." Zixval nodded. "A reasonable precaution. But between us, I don't think it's something to fear. Perhaps feeling a little more like humans do isn't entirely negative." That evening, Zixval added a final entry to the official human observation record. "With the Council's approval of human membership, my formal research mission is complete. But I leave this final note for future xenobiologists and diplomats who will work with humans. Approach humans with caution, not because they are dangerous, but because exposure to them tends to change other species in unexpected ways. They ask, why about things no other species questions? They create art with no purpose. They risk everything for abstract concepts. And somehow, against all logic, it works for them. Throughout this mission, we have asked, why are humans like this? Perhaps that is the wrong question. Perhaps we should be asking, why aren't the rest of us? The humans have a saying, the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. I believe they themselves are proof of this. In a logical, orderly galaxy, they represent wonderful chaos, unpredictable, emotional, and endlessly fascinating. I, for one, look forward to seeing how they change us, even as we change them. Zixval closed the record and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning, filled with billions of contradictory, emotional, irrational humans who were about to join the galactic community, and the galaxy would never be the same again.